Hello again. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Ben Parker. That's Robertson Vire up top. Pleasure on having all of you with us tonight. This is the Box Score Network. This is Odds on Commanders, kind of a spin-off YouTube version of our podcast that we do. We're here tonight to talk about the Commanders, as always, the most important thing going on in the league. The second half of tonight's show will be a mock draft. We'll do the first, second, and fourth round picks that the Commanders have. Robertson will be the general manager for that. I'll be advising, and he can blow me off, or he can take my advice, whatever he sees fit for his pick, given the time come. We're going to spend the first part of the show tonight looking at the roster itself. We thought about, hey, we could just rattle off the needs and move into the mock. We're going to settle in, take about 20, 25 minutes to talk about the needs and give a good table setting for the mock. If you only want the mock, fast forward about the 25-minute mark and catch that. All right, you're more than welcome to do that. But if you want to hear kind of our thoughts about the needs, hang around. We're going to spend some time on it. Robertson, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's very interesting because there seems to be some debate on what it is exactly that we need to spend the first round pick on, what do we need to target, what our needs are. So this is a great time to kind of discuss what it is that we need. And, right now we have 5 picks in the draft. I don't think we're going to stay with 5 picks. I think we're going to end up moving around a good bit in the draft, preferably, back to accumulate more picks for now and the future. So, um, it'll be interesting, to see what we do, try to fill the remaining holes that are in the roster.
Folks, I'll give you a little insight before we jump into the board here. Robertson has had to put up with myself all this weekend as we've tried to put together this board here, and I've been a real pain in the butt about it. But Robertson actually was willing to come on and do the show anyway, in spite of myself. So appreciate that. The board you're looking at here tonight has a bunch of stuff on it. All right, and I mean a ton of stuff on it. Right here, we've got all the players on offense that we thought were the most relevant. Not everybody is here, we know it. You know, there's several players that aren't listed here, but we grabbed the most relevant at each position. These are my personal grades on those players. These are Rob's personal grades on those players on offense. And same thing over here on defense. Okay, this isn't everybody that the Commanders have or will have, but this is a look at what they currently have, the most relevant players. And this is Ben's grades right here and Rob's grades right here. The other thing we got going on tonight is where you see none, none, mid, mid, high, high, all that crap right there. That is levels of need. As we enter the draft, we tried to identify the levels of need. So if we think there's no need there, that's why you find the word none. No need there at all to even worry about it in the draft. If it's high, that means one or the other of us or both of us think that somehow this player or this position is a high level of need. It doesn't even mean we'll address it in the draft. Man, everybody knows this who's done this at all in real NFL or in the mock world. Sometimes you get your turn to pick and it's just not there. You know, the need that you have doesn't match the players that are sitting there. So you have to make a choice. You know, we'll make those choices tonight. Just because we've got it marked as a need does not necessarily mean that we will address it during the draft tonight. It's just something that we've got concerned about. Another thing I'll point out here, Robertson did a lot more grades than even I've got on here. Robertson graded several more players than I even had room for. Didn't have that. Didn't have room for all of that. We didn't put it all on here. And also, last thing to note before I get this started off with Robertson here, Robertson did a much more itemized, player itemized need level here. I tended to go more of a group. So right here, when we get to the offensive line, I just put low on everybody, not because each person was a low need, but as a group, offensive line, low need. So I just labeled the whole group low and moved on. Over here in a different position group, you'll see I've got high, mid on the whole group here, when really it's one or two players that could use the upgrade. I went with a more generic group need, no matter who the player was inside that group, and Robertson did the more accurate, itemized need levels there as well. All right, that's enough jabbering. Let's start off with quarterback here. Robertson, what are we gonna do about this sucky quarterback room, man? I mean, it just needs a major upgrade, right?
Oh man, does it ever? No, first time in about forever that we do not need to worry about this position whatsoever. Daniels obviously is what it is there, and Mariota, we're and me and you were just talking about this right before we got on. He's only on contract for another year, but we have so many other needs to fill right now that it's just not a priority. I would not even waste a pick. If you really like someone undrafted, yeah, sure, bring him in. I know they like Sam Hartman that they signed undrafted last year, but to me, this is the non-issue right now.
Quarterback looks beautiful. We will spend no time talking about it. We've got several other groups we are going to talk about a lot tonight. But with Jaden Daniels and then Marcus Mariota as the backup, it's a beautiful quarterback room. It is the envy of a lot of teams around the NFL right now. So stay tuned on that. Let's hope for more of the same in 2025. The running back room, Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, Brian Robinson, Chris Rodriguez, who I didn't even list here. Four running backs. I've got just the whole position, not each individual. I've got the whole position just listed as a mid-level need. I don't necessarily feel obligated to draft a running back, but it's a good running back draft. I'm interested in grabbing one if we can. We are not suffering at running back here for the Commanders between these four guys. They're all functional. They all offer something. We could get through the season with this group, and I'm fine with that. But as I'm looking at our roster here, I would love some more juice, man. I would love somebody to add some juice to this running back room. So if it comes to it, when it's our pick, I would love to add a guy somewhere in this draft if it pops up. If not, oh well, here we go with these four guys throughout the year. Robertson, how you feeling about the running back room?
I mean, pretty much the same. I don't think any one of them necessarily needs to be replaced. Obviously, if you're going to replace one of them, it would be Brian Robinson. And it's not that he's a bad back. He's not. It's just he's not a very good back. He's somewhere in that like lower echelon of starting running backs, and he doesn't have the juice like you said. Like he just doesn't have it. Um, Most of the time, it's 2 yards in a cloud of dust. That's unfortunately the majority of his carries, and he just hasn't lived up to being a third round pick running back, and he's not dynamic at all. He's a hard runner, I'll say that. He can break, a 10, 15-yard run, a couple times a game, but again, he's not dynamic. And a dynamic running back with Jane Daniels and Debo Samuel, for that matter, would take this offense to a whole nother level.
If you're in the audience listening to us and you got opinions, give them to us. All right, man. I'm open to a lot of different things when it comes to a draft. I've got my preferences. I'm being told that Omarion Hampton, running back from North Carolina, is not going to be there when it comes to Commander's turn to pick. And I'm okay with that. I've got defensive guys I want to go after. But when it comes to a big board, a lot of teams operate this way, and I'm inclined to operate this way. If I've got a standout guy on my big board when it's my turn to pick and it's not a level of need, I'm real tempted to go with that guy because I don't like turning down good football players. I hate it. So if it were to come late first round, and I know everybody says trade out. Listen, sometimes you don't have a trade out partner, okay? Sometimes everybody wants to trade back and nobody wants to trade up, okay? So that's just not always a viable solution. If an Omarion Hampton was sitting there, I'd be interested depending on who else was on the board here available. But by and large, when it comes to that late first round, there's so many defensive needs here. Even if an Omarion Hampton was sitting there, I'm probably going to bypass it unless the talent level on my big board was just so different there. Robertson, how do you any feelings different there on the running back spot?
I kind of feel the same as you. Even Travion Henderson has been thrown out there that he could be a late first round pick, early second round
Yeah.
pick. If there's a cluster of guys there, that you feel comfortable picking at 29, and one of them's at a position of need, and then you have a Marion Hampton there, which I think running back is a need. It's not a high need
Yeah.
as we've both indicated, but um, it'd be hard to pass up, man. It really would be, but again, I would try to trade back if you get good value, fair value. But it'd be hard to pass up a guy like Marion Hampton. It's just going to depend on who was on the board.
Yeah, the problem that you have in this draft and every draft is there's not a huge difference between pick 27 or 28 versus pick 35. So you've really got to have a team who's in love with somebody to trade back in, and that's just not always available for trade back. Sometimes not. I wouldn't fuss at all if they drafted a running back, okay, in the first round. I wouldn't fuss, but it's not on my list of preferences. Let's move on to wide receiver here. We'll leave off tight end for just a minute. Robertson, walk me through what you're feeling here at wide receiver. Obviously, I've just got four guys here. They have more, but let's stick to the four.
Yeah, I mean, would you like to upgrade? Um, sure. Because currently, right now, you don't have anyone other than Luke McCaffrey on the roster past this year. McLaurin extension is not done. Deebo Samuel, they guaranteed his contract for this season. He is not on the roster after this season. Noah Brown, same deal. They signed Michael Gallup. They took a training camp flyer on him. Do I want to bring in somebody? Yes. It is not a priority though to me. I think that you roll the dice on this group, and then you could probably bring in a veteran sometime during the season if need be, or bring a training camp guy. One of these veteran receivers that's still available in free agency is probably going to be available in July. That's just I think at this point that's just going to be the way that it is. Um, I don't feel compelled to draft a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds unless I absolutely love him. Uh, I think what you have right now is worth experimenting with.
I agree. I'm in love with the fact that we've got McLaurin and we've got Deebo Samuel, and I know it's not the same Deebo that it was 2 seasons ago. I don't care. I love that he's on this roster. I think they'll have no problem knowing how to use him very well. I think you have two good guys that are good receiving options now, and Noah Brown's a nice third option too, to be honest. So I don't feel obligated, like you said, to do anything here at wide receiver. But if it's sitting there, I will grab one. All right. Don't tempt me with a good running back and a good wide receiver. I will take them. All right. I
Yeah,
promise. We'll
yeah,
let the defense sit.
yeah,
If the players I love are sitting there, I will take them.
yep.
But again, preferably, I'd rather be over here on the defensive side. Okay. Tight end, we've got Zach Ertz, Ben Sinnott, and $7 million a year averaging John Bates with that kind of interesting contract. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got the whole group as a high level need. Obviously, with Zach Ertz for this season, you're fine. Maybe even next year, you're fine at tight end. But I have long wanted the Commanders to do something at tight end for 3 or 4 years now. So that's why I've got them as a high need. Plus the fact there are some good tight ends in this draft. So I've got two things going on here. It's not that I look at Zach Ertz and think he needs to be replaced right now. He doesn't. You keep him. He's very good, solid tight end. But that juice factor, this is a draft in which there are tight ends in the first round, there's tight ends in the second round, and there's tight ends in the third round, early third, who offer you some juice. And I would be very interested in that if it pops up again. So it's not, Ertz is fine, but again, when you have Ertz, Sinnott, Bates, it's not an overwhelming tight end group. Combined with the fact that for now 2 or 3 years I've been bugging the Commanders about fixing up this tight end room. So I would love to do something with it if it pops up. There are tight ends to be had here, but that's where I'm at with it. We can get by just fine with this tight end group if we've upgraded something else.
So, in my opinion, this is kind of like the quarterback position where it's like what you have right now is fine. Um, or in my opinion, I think Ertz has at least one more year, right? So, and you brought him back for a year.
Right, right.
Would it be nice to draft a guy? Yes, absolutely would be. But you also drafted Ben Sinnott in the second round last year, and he didn't get much playing time. And sometimes the tight end position, it
Yeah,
could take a year or two to develop into the position, making that transition from the NFL. And Beans, how you gave John Bates that contract, you're not going to put Ben Sinnott. He's going to get snatched up if you try to put him on the practice squad. You can't cut Ertz. So now you're bringing in another tight end. If you draft him, you're going to have to stash 4 tight ends on the roster, which is going to be difficult. The only caveat to that would be you move Ben Sinnott in Adam Peters, a San Francisco guy. You move him into a Kyle Juszczyk kind of role as a halfback because he played that in or like an H back or whatever because he played that in Kansas State a good bit. So unless you transitioned him into that role, I don't really see a way to make this work roster wise. So that's why I have low on everything, just because you're kind of kicking the can down the road for another year.
All right, let me insert a joke here first, completely lame, and then I'll observe a great point you made there. Kansas City currently, last I checked, this was last week, has six tight ends on the roster, and I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't draft one if they like it. But listen, Kansas City's using tight ends to block the whole darn time,
Yeah.
in addition to Travis Kelce. Your point about who I like, I love Ben Sinnott, by the way, coming out of the draft, K
Hmm.
State, but they didn't get him on the field much last year, man. They didn't use him that way. But you're right, 1,000%. If they could kick him over into that H back role, and as opposed to that normal tight end, because I think as a tight end he's somewhat limited. He's functional, but somewhat limited. I like his blocking, but I like his H back kind of a factor, that's what I liked out of him at Kansas State. So we'll see. So that's one weird thing about some offensive coordinators who are good in the NFL. A lot of times they don't use certain kinds of guys. They just don't. That's why sometimes I look at guys, slot receivers, a lot of times who are small and fast. And I think, well, I really like that guy, but not everybody in the NFL is going to use him. They may just rot on the bench with some of these teams. So we'll see if Washington uses him at all this year, if they use him that way, or if it's just more functional tight end based for 300 snaps, right? But I'm fine if they don't do anything at tight end. It is a position I've been banging on those, so we'll see if it comes up. I would love to see something there at tight end. I have very little to say on offensive line, which is unusual for me. I have fussed
Yeah.
4 years at Washington about their O line, but they're working on it now. I do still think it's an issue of need, but low need. I'll put it that way. So what I did here, I just glossed the whole darn group as low need, okay? Because you got Tunsil sitting there at left tackle, solves that. You've got not two, three, or four. You got six guys on this roster who played about 1,000 snaps last year. Not all for you, but you talk about guys with experience, guys that can play a role, guys that can at least get on the field and not get run over, Mack trucked all the time. You've got guys there now. And with Tunsil there, have talent too. So I'm okay if they don't address the offensive line. Come fourth or fifth round, I'd love to see them just grab a guy anyway to kind of pipeline some youth. But for the first time ever, this is a low need for me.
Yeah, the depth that they have added this offseason, I mean, a lot of people probably won't give Peters in the front office credit. They've substantially, and that was my big issue for years, is there's no depth. Okay, we have somewhat decent starters, but there's no depth behind there. Now you got, like you said, you have tons of guys that have played thousands of snaps. If one guy goes down, you don't feel bad about plugging and playing another guy. Obviously not ideal, but it's still, decent
Yeah.
backups that they have. Um, and we didn't even talk about the one guy we signed from the Chargers. His name escapes me. I didn't even grade him, honestly, in our pre-production stuff. I can't remember
Right.
his name, but he played like 1,000 snaps, I think, last year or something crazy like that. So would it be nice to grab a young tackle, a young guard, even a young center to groom behind Biotish? Sure, it would be nice, but again, to me, that's at this point a luxury pick based on everything that we need on the defensive side of the ball, which we'll talk about here in a second. Um, Again, one of those scenarios that you were talking about earlier. Okay, if this offensive lineman is high on our board and we don't have a trade partner to trade back, and there's a clear talent discrepancy between him and the rest of the group on our board, then yes, I would pick him. We're not going to pass up on a good player, but
No. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a high priority for me.
No, totally agree. I don't like making a habit of passing up on good players. If you got two guys equal, go with need. But if you got two guys stacked, man, go with the guy you like there, even if it's not the need. So yeah, I would
Hmm.
love adding juice to the O line, but I don't feel obligated to. Foster Sorrell is the guy. I just looked it up
Yes.
for the Chargers
Yes.
that they've got. Okay, let's move over to the defense here. We'll try to move through somewhat quickly here. Walk me through this secondary, man. I've got three safeties. I've got a nickel back. I've got three corners. I think it's a little ugly in some spots here, but
Yeah.
tell me what you think.
Yeah, man. It's not good. It's just not good. It's better than what it was. It's miles better than what it was, but you're starting from I don't want to say nothing, but not in a great place. So you've made a lot of progress, but you're still not in a good place. Um, Will Harris, I don't understand the signing. I didn't like it. He's a sort of starter, a sort of starter that was on a bad team last year. So not great in my opinion. He's definitely not a Jeremy Chin replacement. I don't know what people were talking about. He's just not a Jeremy Chin
No,
replacement.
I
Um,
agree. Agreed.
Quan Martin, look, is a decent safety. He played well at times, but again, is safety the right position for him? I don't know. I would rather try him at nickel a little bit more. Because he only got limited time with that, I believe, in Rivera's last year when he was a rookie. So, I mean, he's fine at safety. I'd like to upgrade if possible. To me, Quan Martin is more of a third deep safety. He should be. That's to me that would be his ideal role is as a third safety. Will Harris to me backup. Percy Butler, I mean, great special teamer, but you don't really. He was used as a third safety a lot last year. Just not great. He was targeted a good bit. Um, Jeremy Reeves, I'm not going to pick on him because he's a special teams guy. And we all love him, all pro Revo. Like we're not going to cut him. So I'm fine with that. Lattimore, that's to me, this is a problem here, right? Not that he is a problem, but he's on a year-to-year contract right now. There's no guaranteed money. They could cut him tomorrow if they wanted to. And they're not, you know, they don't really owe anything because there's no guaranteed money left. Um, so long-term future, not great because okay, if he doesn't pan out, then what's the plan? Not there isn't currently there isn't one. Sanders still, you know what? I love Sanders still so far. He had a rocky rookie season to start out, and then he really came on end of last year. Excited for that. Jonathan Jones bringing him in. Excited for that. Hopefully not as a starter. I really hope not, but I know he's going to get starting reps here. I really wanted to bring back Noah I. I'm glad that we did. Again, depth move. If we can upgrade it, great. If we can't, fine. Um, we just need another starter out opposite Lattimore. I would like to think Sanders still can do that, but we don't know for sure. And do they want to put him inside? Do they want to put him outside? To me, Jonathan Jones is his backup. That again, ideally, you're building the roster here. Jonathan Jones is Sanders Still's backup, whatever he's playing. Um, So they need another corner in here, whether it's a veteran outside corner or if they draft one in the first. It would have to be the first two rounds for a starter level quality, but there needs to be upgrade. There needs to be at least two guys drafted in the secondary in this draft.
You've quoted almost verbatim, not quite, but almost verbatim what my feelings on this secondary are. Will Harris, not trying to be mean or offensive here. I don't want him getting major playing time. All right. 300, 400 snaps kind of as a rotational guy. That's what I want out of that. If we could draft a safety, and there's some good safeties to be had in this draft, especially maybe sitting there at that first round pick here. Boy, I would add one in a heartbeat. Again, like I said with the running backs and wide receivers, don't tempt me with a good safety. I will grab one so quick. I would love it. And I'm happy with Quan Martin being on the field, especially if he's got another good, talented safety to kind of work with. And then if Quan Martin, we decide just doesn't need to be at safety, we move him around too. Um, I love Marshawn Lattimore. I've heard people criticize him during the offseason. Listen, he struggled against two big, really good wide receivers.
Hmm.
Okay. Everybody else, I like the way he handled business. Okay. I thought it was business as usual for Lattimore. Sanders Steele, you mentioned that. I like him. But again, if you draft a cornerback, which I want, I would, listen, you got more needs than you're going to fill in this draft. But let's say you drafted a safety and a cornerback, right? Which I would love. The talent is there in this draft to do that. You draft a safety and a cornerback. Now all of a sudden, you can drop Harris down to low level snaps. You can drop Jonathan Jones down to backup level snaps. Percy Butler becomes kind of an emergency guy, basically. And then Sanders Steele, you can flex, right? Inside,
Hmm.
outside, whatever you want to do, because now you've got a legit safety back there and a legit cover corner back there to go alongside of Martin and Lattimore. So that would help fix a ton of secondary problems. Now, it doesn't fix our defensive line struggles that we're going to get to in just a second. But again, you can't fix everything. So if the safety is there and the cornerback is there, boy, you can really do a lot with this secondary now just by adding those two guys. Okay. So there's a path here. I would love to see it happen if it did. Not gonna fix everything, but that's something that would help a lot. So I'm feeling you there on the secondary. Big needs there all around. There's a little green here. There's a lot of ugly red going on here in the secondary.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's where I'm at on that. Let's hit the linebacker spot. I went ahead and just marked the whole daggum linebacker position as a mid-level need. All right. Obviously, Frankie Louvu does not need to be replaced. Okay. And Bobby Wagner is fine for this year. He will be more than fine. But when I look at this linebacker spot, there's no depth. I mean, forget it.
No.
You're going to start two guys. Two guys. I don't even mind if they started three, but they ain't got three. Okay. So basically, you've got two guys here at linebacker, one of whom may not be playing a year from now, and the other guy of whom is a good, solid, sometimes plus level linebacker who flexes all over the place, like a lot of modern linebackers do, but still, linebacker is not deep, and you're one injury away from having next to nothing. All right. So that's why I marked the whole group as mid level.
Yeah.
Obviously, Luvu's fine. Love Bobby Wagner, but boy, he's on his last legs. I don't know when he's going to retire, but at some point it's going to happen. I would love to have somebody lined up behind him and then somebody to pair with Frankie Luvu. There's not tons of linebackers in this draft, but there are some that I really like. Two, three, four guys that I really like. So if it just hit perfect universe, I'd go linebacker. If not, whatever, we'll address it next year. All right, we'll fix it next off season. So that's where I'm at on linebacker. Where are you?
I'm for kind of what I mentioned about Lattimore. There's no succession plan. It's year to year. There is like, and you put it perfectly. If there's an injury, whether it's to Louver or Wagner, we're done. There's nobody to replace him. His coaching staff is incredibly excited about Jordan McGee. I can only get so excited about fifth round linebacker. I mean, look, I was a Cole Holcomb guy when we drafted him. I was excited about Sean Dion Hamilton. That's a deep cut for some of you guys. I was ecstatic about him. He was a linebacker out of Alabama way back when, with on those Alabama defenses. I was so happy for him. Like I was like, man, this guy's gonna be the next, and yeah, nothing happened. Jordan McGee's the same guy. I mean, it's a fifth round linebacker. I mean, how excited can you get for that? Also, Dominic Hampton, he's a safety linebacker that we don't have listed here. It's like, well, he was a sixth or seventh round pick. It's like, well, again, how excited can we get for that? Is he going to play meaningful snaps? Like, he didn't play at all, really, at all last year. Are we going to trust him to jump in and start if he needs to? I don't. I would hope not. Even with him and McGee, there needs to be a succession plan there, and currently there's not one. So even though I have it generally mid and low. It's I don't want to replace any of those players, but I need a succession plan here. I don't know if you find it in the draft, but we need to have something in mind here.
Agreed. All right, let's move on to the last position. I don't think you and I are going to see this much differently.
Nope.
Defensive tackle, I'm okay with it. I wouldn't touch it in this draft. All right, you got Jerzon Newton, Javon Kinlaw, Darren Payne. I'm fine with that for this year. Maybe next off season, I'd love to pull in another defensive tackle with some talent, but for this year, I wouldn't touch it. And when it comes to edges, listen, Cleveland Farrell, Dietrich Wise, Dorrance Armstrong, as rotational guys, they're fine. You know, 400 or 500 snaps. Dang it. I don't want any of these guys getting 800 snaps, man. None of them is good enough to merit that when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. And they shouldn't be sitting on the bench either, but these are rotation guys. And I need somebody bad who can get after the quarterback. And these guys offer a little bit of that, but not enough, not anywhere near enough.
Yeah. So this is where we differ a little bit. Um, if there's, because I know when we did our mock draft on box score, that video's up. It's been up for about a week or two now. There were some run stuffing defensive tackles at 29, and I'm like, man,
Yeah.
if one of those fall there and they're there and there's nobody else that we like, I'm perfectly fine drafting one of those. Because boy, do we need it. The current
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
current defensive tackles that we have, they can't stop the run worth crap. They can't. And they want to say, "Oh, Javon Kinlaw is the answer." I'm sorry, I don't see it. I don't see. He's not good at run stopping. He's good. He's a
Uh,
decent enough pass rusher, I suppose, but
right.
they clearly see something that we don't. Edge, look. I said earlier we need to add two guys in the secondary. We need to add two guys on the edge.
Yes, we do.
Uh, so of the five picks we have, we're spending four on defense, and I'm 100% okay with that. And
Yes.
the other one's going to be a running back, hopefully. So, uh, it, it's just not enough. There's no starting caliber edges on this team. Clelin Ferrell got starts last year. Dorrance Armstrong got starts. Neither of them are starting caliber edges for a winning team that has Super Bowl aspirations. It's just not reality.
Agreed. Yeah, totally. By the way, even though I said it, you could easily talk me into a run stopping defensive tackle. Okay. I love those kind of guys, and they're sitting in this draft in that late first, early second round range. So
Hmm.
I would have no problem being talked into that. Okay. So even though I said, hey, we'd leave defensive tackle alone for the year, you will not have any hard time talking me into that. Okay.
Right. Yep.
All right. What we're about to do is roll over to the PFF mock draft simulator, one of several that I like, but that's the one we're using tonight. Robertson is going to be the acting general manager. So I'll throw out my opinions. Robertson is totally free to pick a guy I suggest or go with something on his own. He's got all the decision making power tonight. But Robertson, before we actually get into the first round and see what's there at our pick, tell me exactly what you're hoping to get with this first round pick without even knowing exactly who's going to be there. What would be your number one preference to be like, bang, we fixed that with this? Don't even give me a player, just boy, your need that you would love to fix at number with that number one draft pick.
Edge, edge, or a corner with tremendous upside that I'm not necessarily with corner. Here's my flaw. It varies. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit. With edge, I want production. Like I need to know that you can get to the quarterback. With corner, I want traits. I don't necessarily need a ton of interceptions. I don't need a ton of touchdowns or anything like that. We saw that a couple years ago with Emmanuel Forbes. That didn't work out. So I want traits with a corner. I want production with an edge, or a defensive tackle for that matter. But those are the two positions I'm looking at specifically. Or hey, if Cincinnati calls and be like, hey, well, if you give us 29, we'll give you Hendrickson and another pick, like just say a third round pick, a bunch of pick swaps and stuff. I'm fine with that too. I don't want to give up a straight up first for him. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm looking at 29.
Let's enter this draft, man. All right. We ain't
Let's
gonna do
do
any
it.
trades tonight because we're just not gonna take the time to filter through trades, but we're gonna stick and pick at these drafts. We won't go all the way through round 6 and 7, but we're gonna hit the Commanders' first three picks, which covers the first four rounds. Let me see if I can find a place to move this thing here somewhere. That's probably a good spot right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's get the top of the draft real quick. And again, the
Yep.
randomizer hits hard on these drafts. So again, you never know exactly what's going to happen because the computer does randomizer.
Yeah.
In this particular draft, Cam Ward and Shador Sanders go early. So do Carter, Mimbu, and Hunter and Graham. So let's scroll on down here to the guys that got picked just ahead of us. Okay, Tyler Booker is gone. Omarion Hampton, I mentioned him earlier, is gone.
Yeah.
James Pierce, the speeder off the edge, is gone,
Dang.
and Colston Loveland. Which guy you missing the most right there, Robinson, out of this group right here?
It's James Pierce, man.
Okay.
That guy is, like I said, he's I said it in our mock draft that we did a few weeks ago. He's one of my favorite players in this draft, man. He's just nuts. The guy's just crazy. Talent, speed, production, he's got it all. And if he drops in that range, I wouldn't mind trading up. I'll give up. I know we don't have a lot of draft capital as is. I'd be fine trading up a couple spots. Not anything crazy, but I'd be fine trading up a couple spots for him.
All right. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna list off these kind of high level guys that the audience can already
Yep.
see. I'm gonna fish around in some of these position group pools for a second. Then I'll list a guy or two I'm really loving here, and then you take it over from there. So, uh, according to PFF, their top guys still left: Luther Burden, Josh Simmons, Gray Zabel, Derek Carman, Nick Scourton, Darius Alexander, Demetrius Knight, Josh Connerly. Okay, so those are some of PFF's favorite guys still left. I'm not going to look quarterback or wide receiver for this particular pick right here. I'm going to go straight to tight end. The top two guys are gone. I do like Arroyo, Taylor, and Fannin, but those ain't first rounders. So moving on from tight end, running back. We already talked about Hampton being gone, but boy, it thins out after that. There are still guys here, but not anybody that I would be looking at first round. So I'm going to leave offensive line alone for now because I said it was low need. Let's go check out cornerback here. There's a whole group of guys I like right here. Amos, Hairston, Rebel. I love those three guys. Porter, I like him. Real speedster out of Iowa State. Azariah Thomas, I like him. Benjamin Morrison coming off of injury, but I still like him. I'm not sure I don't have if we missed out on this group right here, who I do like with this first round pick, I'm okay. My heart is not set on any of these people here. So I'm going to move off of them for now. Safety. This is a guy I've had in mind for weeks for many different teams, and that is Nick Emmanwori out of South Carolina. The tape is very good on him. Not elite, but really good tape on Nick Emmanwori against the best competition you can find in college football. And it doesn't get any better. Big Ten might be just as good, but his tape and his competition level is outstanding. And then, of course, when it came to the combine, he was just an absolute beast, like a Greek god walking around out there, all right, almost Hercules type level. So I would love to add Nick Emmanwori here to the Commanders coming out of that safety spot. Let's see what else is here at edge. Obviously, a big one for us. Okay, so I like these guys here, but the guys I was really interested are gone. Okay, so I like Scourton. He's a good player. I like Jackson. I like Princely. I like JTT, but not with this first round pick. It's just not where I'm personally going to go. And let's check out the defensive interior here. I like these guys here. I'll tell you, Derek Carman is a guy I really like at defensive tackle. Darius Alexander is a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback. He's not a real run stopper. Alexander just isn't. The run stoppers are more like Sanders, Tyler Williams. So Harmon's pretty good at both. I'd be interested in him. I'm going to let you take over from here. My number one suggestion, the guy I've got my heart set on, is Nick Emmanwori, the safety. Did we look at cornerback? Yeah, we looked at cornerback. There's a group of corners that I like there, but I'd want to probably trade back if I recommended getting one of them. All right, so we're going to stick and pick. I'll go anywhere on the board you want to go, but walk us through what you're thinking and then make a pick, man.
Tell me about Demetrius Knight. Is he worth a first round selection, and what's his kind of ceiling looking like?
Okay, I love Demetrius Knight, okay? Absolutely love. But to me, he's not worth the first round pick. I just don't think he's got a massive ceiling with huge potential. When I look at Demetrius Knight, I see a guy who's maybe a day one starter, really good tackler. I think the best tackler I've seen in this draft. If he gets a hand on you, you're going down. Pretty much that's usually it. He's a really good tackler. He's got good speed, not elite speed. I think that's what keeps him out of the first round for me. He's an excellent run stopper. He's a thinking guy. You can see him thinking his way through. He doesn't just jump on crap. He thinks. He kind of waits before he moves. So I like that. But to me, he's a second round guy, not really that burst that I would want to get out of my first round pick. But boy, I think I don't think he'll be there at 61, right? So that's where you get into the dilemma of we love him, we take him now, or he's gone at 61. But that's my opinion on him.
So I'm just taking you through my thought process real quick. Obviously, Nick Scourton being there, that is tempting because he's one of the only guys left that I think is worthy of taking top 60,
Right,
top
right.
61. Like I like Landon Jackson. I don't love him. Prince Yu, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's okay, like I can see good things about the guys that are there. Scourton, he was one of the guys when we were talking about the edge guys and one of the episodes we did recently. I forget what we were doing. He was one of the guys that does everything. He's a good speed guy. He's a good rush. He's got a full package there. But he's his there's
Yeah.
a to me there's a clear ceiling. There's a talent gap there between him and the rest of the guys. So I wouldn't feel great about picking him at 29. The other people that have my attention right now are Derek Harmon and Josh Connerly Jr., which I know tackle is really not a priority right now, but man, I
He's there.
he's there, and he's there. And to me right now it would be between Harmon and Connerly Jr. because of one, I think Derek Harmon fills a need. It's a succession plan to Daron Payne. Because I doubt he's going to be on the roster after this year. I don't think
Right.
that's going to happen. He'd
Right.
have to put on one hell of a performance this year to, his contract year. He got 11 sacks the last time he was in a contract year, so we'll see what happens. But I think that could be a succession plan. I don't know how they feel about Jerzon Newton. I feel okay about him. I don't feel great about him. So to me, it's between those two guys. Luther
Before
Burden
you
doesn't.
make your
Yeah,
before you make your pick there between Harmon and Connerly,
yeah.
if you're in the audience and you're screaming at us, it's not a need. We don't care. All right.
I
Do
don't care.
not pass up good football players. If you do that, you shouldn't be having a job in the NFL. Okay.
Yeah.
The positions we wanted at corner, neither me nor Robertson were in love with the guys there. I like the guys there, and I would be okay with taking any one of the guys there. But there's guys I love elsewhere. I have them rated higher on my big board. So do most people. Same thing when it came to edges. There's a couple of edges I like there, but the ones I was really hoping to get are already gone. You mentioned that James Pierce already gone. We could scroll back up through here and look at the edges that are already gone. Jalen Walker, long gone. Mikael Williams, long gone. Mike Green, long gone. Donovan Ezeraku, long gone. Jahad Campbell, long gone, right? All of the guys that really have that flash in this particular scenario are long gone. So this is going to happen more than most drafts. This is going to happen a lot to NFL teams where they have needs, but it doesn't match the guys sitting there at that spot, and you have to ask yourself, do we drop down and take the need guy who we're okay with, or do we get the guy we really love that's not a need? So I'm 1,000% okay with Harmon or Connerly, even though those were not our top needs heading in.
Yeah. And two things real quick. Luther Burden, he doesn't necessarily excite me at 29. I know some people really love him. I'm not one of those people that really love him. Um, Obviously, my preference right now would be to trade back if we can get decent value for the pick and so forth. My preference would be to trade back. But given that we're not, I think I'm gonna go Derek Harmon here. He's a complete interior defensive lineman. He can stop the run. He can rush the passer. He's a big dude. Like he is big. Um,
Yes.
and he was productive. So to me, that's the pick. To me, that's the best player for our situation. That's the best player that we can choose right now. Nick Scouton, look, I like him. I don't love him. Connerly Jr., yes, I would like to add him on there, him or Josh Simmons. I'd like to add him on there to that offensive line because it would just solidify that other tackle spot for the next 5 years. But you got to me, you got to give Brandon Coleman a chance at right tackle, and Derek Harmon's more of a need right now.
Okay. I love the Harmon pick. And listen, I'm sure somebody out there is again screaming about
I
need.
know,
I
I
get it.
know,
We get
I
it.
get it.
We are all on board with need. Don't pass up players you love. Okay. If they're up there high on your big board, unless there's a need guy sitting right there nose to nose, you take the guy you like. Okay. And
Yeah,
it's really smart football over the years. It may not help us quite as much next year in 25 necessarily, but it might. But for sure, over the years, those kinds of picks is what makes us a stronger franchise. And I think that's good long term thinking. Okay.
now Ben,
Well,
what would your pick be here?
ultimately, it would be Nick Emanwari. That's the one guy that I've got
Okay,
my heart set on out of
yeah,
who's left here, right?
right.
But I like the Harmon pick. I would be fine with the Connerly pick. I would be fine with Gray Zabel. Who else here? I'd be fine with Nick Scorton. I mean, seriously, I'd be fine with any of those guys. Those are all totally fine with me. So, and even one of the cornerbacks. I think it's a little bit high for that cornerback group.
Hmm.
But what I found is this, and I'm gonna get your thoughts on 61 before we actually click the
Hmm.
button and see who's available. What we have found going through the mocks this year, and we've done a ton of them. Check it out here on Box Score Network. By pick 61, the cornerback well runs dry. I mean, there's nothing left in terms of true desirable potential starter level talent. It is gone. So unless we get lucky here at 61 and this guy's still sitting there, I don't think we're going to be able to go cornerback at 61, honestly. And I'm fine with that. We play the scenarios we're given, right? But
Hmm.
that's yeah, that's the way things work out. Harmon is in the building now. Okay, defensive tackle is now made stronger, and I love it. What are you hoping to do at 61 before we see what's actually there?
Edge, it has to be. I mean,
Okay.
it has to be edge, or again, if there's safety or corner, I mean, it has to be on the defensive side. I don't think it's going to be wrong one way or the other, but I mean, we have to find a starting edge. The need at this point.
I think there's a 50-50 chance that there's a couple of edges still sitting there that are okay, that are workable, that have some meat to them. We'll find out again. You could replay the real draft 100 times over and it would play differently every time,
Yep.
much less a mock like what we're doing. Okay, let's click the pick. Derek Harmon, Washington Commanders. Let's scroll on down here and see who got picked right before us. Restrepo gone, Sawyer and Edge gone, Darian Porter, the speed guy, gone, Quinshon Judkins gone, and Trey Amos gone out of Ole Miss. Same thing here. I'm gonna fish around, see what's out there, make a rec, and then you take over and give it to us. Demetrius Knight still
He's
sitting there,
there. He's there.
and that's listen. I know somebody's going to tell us, well, Knight wasn't that good, that's why he's here, and other people are going to say, well, he would never be there. Somebody's going to drop to 61. It may not be the guy we're all hoping for. Somebody's going to drop to 61. I would take Demetrius Knight in a heartbeat. Okay, but let's see what else is out there. Okay, Arroyo, I mentioned the tight end. I do like him. Not as good as Knight though, so I would pass on that. Benjamin Morrison here at corner. Morrison has slid down boards big time. He was basically a late first rounder, but the injury is what has pulled him down. So it's up to us. Obviously, you and I would have our medical team search the heck out of that injury and get a good feel for it. But if we felt okay on the medical side, I'd be interested in Benjamin Morrison. It might just be some time before we get to cash in on that pick. It may not be this year, depending on how his recovery is going. I'm gonna skip quarterback. Let's take a quick look at wide receiver here. All right, I like all these guys. Okay,
Yep.
uh, stop from Harris all the way through Horton. I like all these guys, but there's a chance one of them might slip to 128. So I'm gonna pass on that. Okay. We already looked at tight end, Arroyo, Taylor, Fannin. Like all three, but not here. I'm gonna skip offensive line for now. Cornerback. I like Dorian Strong, but not here in the second round, and I think he'll be gone by 128. So skip on that. And then safety. There's a couple of good safeties here, Makuba and Winston. Winston's a real athlete. You talk about it, just a real pure athlete coming out of Penn State. He too's coming off of an injury, and he's a little undisciplined at times. But you talk about an athlete who can go everywhere and do everything. I really love that. It would add juice on the backside. Ultimately, though, here, and we'll go anywhere you want in a second. Demetrius Knight is the one I see that I like. I know it's not an edge rusher. He provides very little edge rushing capability. He just doesn't. That's not his thing. He's an in space guy. He's good against the run. He's solid in coverage. Not going to do much as an edger though. He's a legit, true linebacker is what he is. So that's my recommendation. But take it away, man.
Let's look at. I mean, we got to see what at least what we have at edge.
All right, let's see what we got. Whew. It runs out, man. I know some
Yeah.
people like Kennard, some don't. Oladejo is actually a guy I do like. I will say Oladejo is a guy that I've seen down here, but I think somebody's going to grab him late second, early third. So Oluwafemi Oladejo here out of UCLA, that would give you at least some kind of an edge presence. I don't know how much, but I know people like him and I like him. So if you're convinced, if you're determined to get edge, that would be my guy right there. I know he's down here on the PFF rankings, but that's a guy I see going probably early third round more than likely. But we need an edge. So if you're determined to get a guy, that would be my guy.
So the only thing I would say about Knightley is he a good blitzing linebacker? Because honestly, I don't really know much about him. Is he a good blitzing linebacker because Quinn and I can't think of our defensive coordinator's name. My God, Witt. They love to blitz the linebackers. Like they send Luvu and Wagner constantly up the middle. I know he's not a good edge, and that's fine. But is
Right.
he a decent blitzer? That would be my only question.
I think decent is the right word. He's got good burst. Once he decides where he's going, he gets there fairly quickly. To give you an idea of his speed, he's great through traffic. By the way, he's great at getting through traffic. So that he's beautiful at that. So
Right.
from a blitzing standpoint, he's good at that. He doesn't have sideline to sideline speed, um, but if he's got say his linebacker spot from there to the sideline, he's got that covered. He's got all that ground covered. Unless you're a running back who's just already got an angle on him, he's going to cut you off. Okay, so he's got good speed, really good speed, and he works through traffic. So he's a decent blitzer. He's not brilliant at it.
Okay. I'm gonna take him for a couple reasons. One, we don't love the edges that we have. Obviously,
Right.
again the idea is to trade back. If we don't love Knight and we don't love anything else that we got here, we're gonna trade back, pick up more picks so we can get later fill more holes ideally. I'm picking Demetrius Knight for two reasons. One, because I think it's a long-term play. It's a need. Two, you got Bobby Wagner in the building. You got Ken Norton Jr. as the linebackers coach in the building. Tons of experience, a Hall of Fame linebacker who is better to learn from. Instincts isn't something you can teach, but reading defenses, which is something Bobby Wagner is next level literally Hall of Fame ability at,
He
who
is.
better to learn from, right? Like it's not obviously going to transfer immediately. It might not at all, but I am willing to take that risk to have a contingency plan, and maybe maybe you move Luvu over to edge almost exclusively, right?
Yeah.
To where
No.
he's more of a Micah Parsons where he can stand up and play linebacker, but you're just going to have him rush the passer almost exclusively, and have Knight and Wagner be linebackers. It would almost solve two problems. If you're comfortable doing that with Luvu, I wouldn't necessarily be, but if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do.
My 2 points that I keep coming back to: we can only draft who's sitting here. We can't draft people that aren't sitting here,
Yeah.
and you're not going to fix all the holes. Okay, so I get it. We haven't hit our holes, but we've hit good players, and Knight is a tremendously good player. Didn't even think he would necessarily be back here at 61, but here he is. I think we're fortunate to have him. We are making the defense better, even though we haven't hit our preferred edges and cornerback holes here. The one other thing I will say, if the Commanders have guys they like, they're probably going to have to trade up to get them. It's going to be kind of hit and miss about whether or not at 27 and 61, the guys we like are actually going to be sitting there. We may get lucky on one of those, right? We may
Yeah.
not. So if we really want to get after a guy, and you mentioned it, not trading up half a round, but let's think about trading up from 61 to 50. Because, if we go up to 50, we can then look at guys like JTT, right? Or a Jack Sawyer, or possibly even a Princely slides back to us at 50, right? Same thing at 27. If there's guys we really like up there, like a James Pierce or if Inez Raku were to slip, we could move from 27, where are we, at 29 up to 27 to catch that, right?
Yeah.
So, kind kind of got to keep your eyes and ears open when it comes to the real draft time for sure. Okay, so here's what we've done. We've added Demetrius Knight at linebacker, and we've added Derek Harmon defensive tackle. We have gotten really strong up the middle all of a sudden. And while we haven't addressed cornerback, we haven't addressed edge, we haven't addressed safety, we can build off of that strength up the middle for sure because we have gotten really strong up the middle. Should be able to lock down the run game of opposing teams and hopefully build scheme wise off of that. What are you hoping to do with pick 128?
Best player available. At this point, we didn't find a starting edge. You're not going to find a
Right.
starting edge at 128. And again, ideally, you trade around. You got to maneuver around to get your edge. It's just based on what we're doing right now and the way the board fell. We ended up with a defensive tackle and linebacker. I could have picked Scourton in the first round. I didn't love the pick. I'm not. I'm going to stick to what me and you agree with. I'm not going to pick need just for need because that's how teams get in trouble. Look at these other successful teams do. They pick best player available. That makes sense. Both these picks make sense. They're not top needs, but they make sense. 128 again, best player, whether it's running back, receiver, edge, safety, corner, whatever it is. We got to pick best player available here.
Everything I've seen after about pick 90, huge drop off talent wise. So we are not any longer dealing with the same caliber of player. We are looking at guys who, quite honestly, they'll probably make the roster, but I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what we're starting to deal with here, and this is
yeah.
this is the fourth round, man. This is early fourth round, so that's kind of what this year's draft offers. Okay, uh, I'll let the audience see the people here. The first name I see that I like is Torrey Horton. He's about 6'4", got good size to him, decent speed. You go look at his combine number. I don't remember what it was, but it was decent speed for his size, so I like him. Sifting on down through here. Geez, not a lot of guys I like here, to be honest. I'm sifting through. Quincy Riley out of Louisville, cornerback is intriguing to me. I think he would make the team for sure and then get some playing time if we were to draft him. That's an interesting guy. Kyle Williams out of Washington State is a speed demon, but again, smaller guy. Kobe King at linebacker. We're not going to draft linebacker nails, I don't think, since we got Knight, but Kobe King would be a guy who would be a good guy back there. So I'm going to stop there. I'll go to where you want, but I see two wide receivers I like here, and then I also see what else did I say?
The corner from Louisville.
Yeah, the Louisville corner. All right, so
Yep.
I'll let you take over from there here.
I'm interested in to see what the Louisville corner, kind of what his measurables would be. His product. I'm not as intrigued as the production. Like I would be more interested in, how quick he is sideline to sideline, or how fluid he is. Is he an outside, inside guy? I'd be more interested in those things. Do the traits match up to what we want to implement on defense? Um, is he more of a man guy, zone guy? Those would be the things I would be looking for to make sure they match the scheme and so forth. And then at that point, I'm looking for traits. So I would say that if he matches up, if he has decent traits, if he matches our scheme, then I would be all in on Quincy Riley. Uh, I don't really know if there's many running backs that we could get there. Edge guys, don't really know. I'll be honest, this is not my strong suit. So, um, yeah, I'd be for whoever you. I'm gonna lean on you for this one. I don't know Trevor Etienne. That's an intriguing name right there, but I would more so lean on you for this one in terms of who you think would not be good selection for this pick.
Yeah, the running backs. To me, all the good running backs are gone.
Right.
There's guys here that are worth taking a flyer on. If you had like some teams, like I think the 49ers have like 11 draft picks.
Yeah.
More, I would
Yeah.
be more than intrigued to grab a Marcus Yarns or Jordan James or an Ollie Gordon. I think there's low risk, high reward sitting right there with those three guys for sure. but I would maybe do that at 205 with one of those guys, not here at 128, quite honestly. So if any
Mhm.
one of those three guys, Yarns, James, Gordon, sitting at 205, I grab one of them just to, give us a chance here. You mentioned the edge. I don't think there's any good edges at all still sitting there, but let's take a look here. There's nothing here that excites me as far as this pick goes.
Yeah.
More than happy to draft a guy here, but Quincy Riley, I was just trying to remind myself of what his measurables were. Um, he's 6 foot 195, which is about how he plays. I I like him. He holds up okay in man. He holds up okay in zone. But again, he's a fourth round talent. That's about where he should be drafted, especially in this year's draft. I don't know that you're I don't know that I would want Quincy Riley holding up on the outside. Again, he's probably at the NFL level, would probably slide more at the nickel role. I think I like his movement pretty good. His measurables aren't great. Nothing stand out. I'll put it that way. They're not bad, but not great. That's kind of where I'm at on Quincy Riley. Very much worth the draft pick. Going to excite me as much as anything here, other than the wide receivers.
Yeah, man, Slim Pickens. I
It
like
is.
it's unless they like Zy Alexander or Elijah Uzi. Um, I'd be targeting, corner here. I'd be targeting edge. You said there's no good edges left, so I'd be targeting corner if there's nothing really else left. Or running back. Torrey Horton, if you really like him, I would entertain him. Again, not ideal. But if you think that he's too good to pass up at this point, then I would be on board with that. Um, or one of these other corners. That would be the direction I'd go in.
To me, there is nobody outstanding on the board. So at this point, best player available slash need, Quincy Riley is going to be who I would want to go with. And again, it's not that there aren't players here to pick. There's plenty of players to pick from. But boy, you're just grabbing at this point. You're just looking for what needs you have and maybe what grade you had on a guy. But these grades are all going to come in really similar. It's like, well, do I want a big guy or a short guy? Do I want a tall guy or a fast guy? Right? That's really what you're down to with a lot of these things.
Right.
Quincy Riley's more of the fast guy. I think you could use him as a backup nickel for this season. Maybe he grows to be a starting nickel next year. I think that's kind of what you might be hoping for.
Let's go for it then. Let's
All right,
do it, Quincy Riley.
let's do it.
And really, the exercise here is, regardless of who the player is, honestly, it's just mainly the position group. It's like I'll be honest, I don't know these guys. Whoever fits, what we're trying to do, I'm fine with drafting. Um, because at this point, you're just trying to, does this guy fit what he's going to do? Does he have good traits? That's really what I'm trying to do.
I'm going to do one other quick thing here just to satisfy my own curiosity. And I know if the audience is still hanging on here with us, they're curious as well. If we were to go to a different mock simulator and
Yeah,
just simulate again, who would be sitting there at those same exact picks? All right.
yeah.
Because again, the randomizer kicks in too. So I'm going to roll over here to mock draft database and I'm just going to crunch it real quick. We ain't going to make no picks. Just who's sitting here when it comes to 29, 61, etc. Close off the trade offers. Okay, so Matthew Golden is still sitting there. Marion Hampton is still sitting there. Walter Nolan is still sitting there. Donovan Ezaraku is still sitting there. So you can see how it changes from not
Yeah.
only one simulator to the next, but if I had randomized the mock we were on, it would all change. Okay, so again, boy, at Edge, you got Ezaraku sitting right there.
I would run the card to the table.
Right.
I mean, I would run that up.
It's 50-50, man. Somebody's going to be sitting there at 29 that we like. The question is it going to be at a need spot or not? That's the
Yeah.
question. That's where the 50-50 comes in. I'm going to do that real quick, and let's go see what's sitting there at 61. That is the dilemma that these NFL teams face on draft night is, man, we're picking at 61. That guy's sitting there at 50. Do we trade up to 52 and grab him, or do we hope he falls to 61?
Yeah.
Never easy. All right. We are sitting here at 61. Let's see who's at the top.
Oh,
Travion Henderson
oh,
sitting there.
heck. Run the card up. I don't even care about who else is on the board. Just
Yes.
run the card up. Travion Henderson.
Watch this though. Who else is sitting here at CB? I see him sitting there. Darian Porter, who is a speed demon out of
Yeah.
Iowa State, still sitting there at 61. At safety, Xavier Watts still sitting there at safety. Good group there. The edgers, still Sawyer sitting there, pretty good edge. Who else here? Looking. Both linebackers sitting there. I like both of these guys.
Yeah.
Tight ends still sitting there. Who else do we say? Wide receiver. Whole group sitting there of wide receivers. I like here at 61. Um, anyway, let's go ahead and grab Travion Henderson here, okay?
Yeah.
Just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah.
what's sitting there at 128.
I mean, this we couldn't have started with this, huh?
Right. Exactly.
Man, like this would have been, oh man. See A plus grades. I mean, yeah. No, duh.
All right. It still thins out here at 128. So at
Yeah.
edge, nothing that I'm happy with. I like Sanker here at
Yeah.
128. That's fine. Nothing here at CB I'm happy with. Uh, Carter at 128 is fine for a linebacker. Geez, nothing there at so at 128 it still thins out. But boy, just by switching mocks and just by resimulating, which again we could have stayed on PFF and resimulated and got similar results, right? We got guys that fit our needs much more.
So go back to wide receiver really quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it would be either Ty Felton or which I know is not a need, but it would be Ty Felton or what is it, Sinker from Virginia? I
Yeah,
would say
yeah.
one of those two, coin flip pretty much. I mean, Ty Felton, he's a local kid. We met with him privately, which if you look at last year's draft, every draft pick that we did was a top 30 visit. So that was an indication like, hey, this guy is definitely on our board. Um, and again, it's not a major need. Again, would I like to add a defensive back like Sinker or another edge even? Yes, absolutely. But yeah, I mean this would be ideal if we added Ty Felton or that safety from Virginia. Yeah, I'd be more than happy with that.
Everybody's board is different. Mine, yours, all the guys who do it who get paid to do it on a daily basis. Big board wise, I like Harmon and Knight a little bit better than I like the Ezraku Henderson combination in terms of my preferred talent. But
Right.
by the time you mix in needs, this falls way more in favor of what we would need for the Commanders than the way the other board fell.
Yeah, I mean, I would run those first two picks. I would run them up
Yeah.
to, which I know if there's no actually handling of the cards to the people anymore. It's just all, yeah. But I would click that person so fast. I'd already have my guy dialing like before we were in picking. Like I'd be like, you know what, just have it ready, and then as soon as we're on the clock, just hit the call button, and we're gonna say, hey, we're drafting you.
I think there should be. I think that the NFL should either have team mascots run the card up, or you remember the old bullpen carts that would run the drive the relief pitcher out to the mound.
Yes.
There should be something like that,
Yep.
or like in a football golf cart or something.
Yep.
Or you could have retired Hall of Famers carry the card up like the torch, the Olympic torch.
Yeah.
Be way more entertaining, but the NFL doesn't do that yet.
No, but it is what it is, man. I like that second draft a lot better. I like
Yeah,
it a lot better,
yeah.
but it is what it is. It's not going to go either of those ways come draft night.
It'll go some other random wacko way. That's the way the draft works.
Yeah.
If you're still with us, thank you so much for watching. This is the Box Score
Yes.
Network. That's Robertson. I am Ben Parker. We're going to do this again in 2 weeks. Okay, so in 2 weeks we're going to do some more Commanders conversation, but the second half of that will be another mock draft. It gives us a chance to sharpen not only what we want, but it gives us a chance to think more about what might happen, what might be sitting there, what would we do in this situation, that situation. So we are more than happy to be doing another mock draft here in 2 weeks. All right, Robertson, anything else before we shut it down, man?
No, sir. just make sure you subscribe. Go watch the other mock draft if you love mock drafts that we did a couple weeks ago. We'll be doing another one here soon, as you mentioned. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great one. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Goodbye.